I got a few people come on. We're going to be talking about cryptocurrency in the first sort of 15 minutes, guys. Okay.
Yep, that's about what I got.
Sorry, Gary?
That's about how much time I have today.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, Gary. Yeah, and then I'm going to move on to my other stuff. But as you all know, guys, Thursday night is the main night for cryptocurrency, 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock PS Pacific Standard Time. But anyway, I'm live on my YouTube channel now, and I'm live on Facebook. So I got Gary Connor on the call with me for the first 10, 15 minutes. We're going to make it quick, and a cryptocurrency expert. And that's the space I'm going to be concentrating on into the foreseeable future. Okay, guys, cryptocurrency and a few other little bits and bobs, but cryptocurrency is the main product. And just what we're going to cover in the next couple of minutes, we're not going to go talk about Bitcoin and the blockchain, which we normally do on a Thursday night. Don't forget, Thursday night, 9 o'clock. I'm just going to go talk about, again, a lot of people messaging me, going into detail about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and basically how long is Bitcoin going to last, things like this. Can the government shut it down? What's the other thing? KYC, know your customer. People are saying cryptocurrency is best to be centralized, going into a sort of KYC situation, so you can stop people money laundering and sort of terrorism and all this type of thing, and drug money. So a lot of people are saying to me, is it best to get involved with a cryptocurrency that's going to be centralized, which is more controlled, rather than something like Bitcoin or FuelCoin? There's lots of other coins out there which are decentralized. So we're gonna talk about that, okay, just for the next 10 minutes. So Gary, I'll pass it straight over to you. If you can just explain, first of all, obviously we just assume now everyone knows about Bitcoin itself. It's been around for a few years. Just explain the difference between a decentralized coin like Bitcoin and a coin that's looking a new up and coming coin is looking to centralize itself. What's the advantages and disadvantages of it staying as a decentralized coin or becoming a centralized coin? And let's talk about this KYC, because a lot of people are telling me, well, Bitcoin hasn't got any KYC. Any drug dealer can set up a wallet with Bitcoin and send money anywhere around the world and get away with it. And the government's not going to like that and look to sort of get on top of things. Can you go through that, Gary, please? Over to you, Gary Connor.
Absolutely. Well, let's address the whole drug money and laundering and things like that, and let's recognize that the government-backed fiat dollars that run around the world, aka euros, US dollars, the ruans, all of these different financial tools that have the ability to be printed and distributed to people in their pockets, are being used as the primary source for funding of terrorism and drug activity. People hypersensitive about Bitcoin being used for drugs and for terrorism are really buying into the bank and the government's storyline that Bitcoins are bad or cryptocurrency is bad. Why would they do that? Well, they do that because everybody who buys a Bitcoin, in a way, is voting against government tyranny. So, point blank, the fiat dollars that are being distributed by governments are the backers of drugs and terrorism. Bottom line, the governments that own the media will spin a story and make it sound like cryptocurrencies are bad because it's being used for that. Now, can you use it for that? Of course you can. And there is no cryptocurrency in the world that can block that use, because as soon as that person has control of their coins, whether it's centralized or decentralized, and actually all cryptocurrencies are decentralized, we'll talk about that in a second, but the second that customer has it in their hands, they could do whatever the hell they want to with it. And if it's buying drugs, they can do it. If somebody's willing to sell drugs for that cryptocurrency, they can do it, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Now, when we talk about centralized and decentralized, a person would tend to compare a bank like the Federal Reserve in the United States would be a centralized system. It creates its money and it supplies the money out at a small interest rate to governments. All right? So that is a centralized system. They control the money supply, they tell you how you can use your money supply, and they throw you in jail if you do something they don't like with your money that they supplied you. They own that money. And by the way, at any point, even if it's gold or silver, the government owns it if they give you a $20 gold piece printed in the U.S. Liberty dollar that's printed in a gold, and it's a $20 gold piece, I should say, at any point the government can, by law, contractually, take it away from you. A decentralized system would be like Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency because the government doesn't own it. There isn't a financial institution creating it. It is decentralized because anybody can participate in it. Now, within the cryptocurrency industry, there are truly decentralized cryptocurrencies where you have some coders and developers that create a coin and they unleash it on the world and they hope somebody starts using it. The problem with that is historically we have found that with no centralization or no support and no formal backup of the project or marketing, these projects die all the time. Bitcoin itself has what's called the Bitcoin Foundation. They are a group of coders and leaders that have been voted into the position to help support the technology growth of Bitcoin and answer some of the questions that are being posed to Bitcoin today. So Bitcoin isn't decentralized from that standpoint. It actually has a foundation that has Bitcoin's well-being in mind. So it's not totally decentralized. It's actually got some sub-management behind it. You can't actually create a cryptocurrency. Let's just call it an XYZ coin and make it truly decentralized. So let's pretend I'm a coder and I create the XYZ coin and I launch it and I walk away. That would be decentralized. Anybody can do whatever the heck they want to with it, but what you will find is that if that person who created it doesn't do something to support its technology and keep what we call nodes safe, updated, and secured, it will fork and disappear. It'll break. You can literally break blockchains. And it's done because people aren't paying attention to the core code itself. So we can just wipe out the whole conversation about a decentralized cryptocurrency because there isn't one today, and I don't think there ever will be one that is truly decentralized. There has to be some sort of backup management to it. Now, how much management the coin gets is up to the coin developers. So we have some coins that say that they're creating their own internal exchanges and that they have their own internal blockchains and that they won't let people participate in it unless they have the know your customer credentials in place. Well, that's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. The truth of the matter is they're going to probably do better than average because they have a focused marketing group. Just like FuelCoin, but the difference is it's not a focused marketing group. It's not controlled. It's not an MLM. It's a little more decentralized. It's up to everybody who participates in it to do something for it because they believe in the product or the project. It doesn't have an actual corporation running the show like some other coins. And, I'm going to say it openly, OneCoin was one that was trying to do that, but they never developed an actual cryptocurrency. So for all intents and purposes, it was more or less a scam. And it's pretty widely recognized it was a scam. Now what we're starting to see is some of these top leaders from that organization are going out and literally making OneCoin version 2.0. It's not really different. They just see how much money people were able to make through this little pyramid / Ponzi / scam, and they're going out to shoot their shot at trying to make that same kind of money. And unfortunately, a lot of those coins are coming out. Now let's talk about know your customer. What does that mean? You do not need to have KYC documents to operate with Bitcoin. You do not need to ask permission to download a wallet and purchase Bitcoins from somebody on the street and move them to your wallet, and you can transfer them all over the world however you want. There isn't a jurisdiction. There isn't a body or an entity that has jurisdiction over the entire world. That's why there are no KYC requirements. KYC typically comes out of the UK, out of Germany, USA for sure, and sometimes a little bit more is starting up in China. But there isn't one overall global know your customer law because no government has jurisdiction over the rest of the world. So where does this whole KYC come in? Well, Bitcoin actually does have KYC, as do all other cryptocurrencies that are on open, public, regulated exchanges. And what I mean by that, you do not need to have know your customer in place for cryptocurrencies because no laws were written to make that happen. And no laws would actually be able to be written for that because, again, the governments writing that law do not have jurisdiction over the whole world. If we did, we'd have a new world order and everybody would be kumbaya and happy. That's not going to happen anytime, probably in my lifetime for sure. So where does the KYC come in? It comes in when you need to interface between the fiat dollar system and the cryptocurrency system. And that's done at the exchange platforms, and it's done through any company that allows you to bring money in, turn it into cryptocurrency through their bank account. That needs to have know your customer because there's very clear laws about who can do that. There's money transmitter licenses required in the United States. Anybody who's doing large amounts of money through a bank in Europe, Germany, Russia, China, doesn't matter, they need to have know your customer in place to keep themselves out of jail because it's a long-established law. It's a long-established, very well-defended law in many countries. So I hope that puts KYC to rest. It's not a big deal. It's there already for everybody who has a system to go in and out of fiat.
Right, okay. So I know I use Coinbase and I use Bitstamp to actually buy my Bitcoin. I have to send my money from my UK bank account in pounds or dollars, and then that money arrives in my Coinbase or Bitstamp account in dollars. The conversion takes place. But am I right in saying, I know for a fact, when I set up my Coinbase and my Bitstamp account, I had to go through KYC, didn't I? I had to prove who I was with a passport and a utility bill. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. And it's because they are responsible to keep themselves out of jail. And they only do that by making sure that the customers that they are allowing to use their service in and out of fiat are known. And if they need to, if it seems like there's some money laundering going on, they can provide the information to whatever government it is, and the government can come knock on your door and say, hey, what are you doing? But so that's only at that's only at the fiat to crypto point. In and out of fiat is the only time that becomes relevant. As soon as it's in crypto, if you own Bitcoin and everybody that you bought things from accepted Bitcoin and then you got paid in Bitcoin, it eliminates that. It's a full circle. There is no in and out of fiat. And that is starting to happen. I get paid in Bitcoin. That's the only way I personally accept payments. And generally speaking, I'm able to find vendors for computers and things that I need in Bitcoin that I pay. So that my suppliers receive my Bitcoins, and people who hire me, I get paid in Bitcoin. So I don't even go in and out of the fiat system very often.
What about the cash? Like there's certain tradesmen around the world, they take cash, like a window cleaner or anyone, a gas fitter or an electrician. Everyone to a certain degree, we've all done it in our times, taking a bit of cash, and some people try and get around the taxing systems. Is that possible with Bitcoin? Like, you could pay me cash in the middle of the street, and I can send you Bitcoin. Then I can just send the Bitcoin to your account. You receive Bitcoin on blockchain.info, for example. There's no KYC on blockchain.info, is there? Or am I wrong?
That is correct.
Yeah. And you could just you could pay me cash. I could send you $100,000 in Bitcoin. You got $100,000 in your blockchain.info account where there is no KYC, and you could use that money then to do all kinds of things, couldn't you?
You absolutely could. Well, that is part of the reason that there have been things like the Silk Road that were created and being funded through Bitcoin, because it's actually impossible to get in the middle of these worldwide transactions where no one government has jurisdiction over all of them. Now, let me also point out that there was two countries, very, very significant countries, that flat out outlawed Bitcoin for this very reason. It was number one, Russia, and number two was China. Well, look how that worked out for them. All that happened is all the Chinese and all the Russians, they started to operate blockchain wallets in different countries where they had no more jurisdiction. So they changed their rules. If these two prominent communist governments can't outlaw it, it can't be stopped. It's certainly not going to happen in the UK. America has no chance of doing it. So this is kind of a history point that was answered in 2014. It's not stoppable, but it is up to the individual. If you are making money in Bitcoin, then you should claim it on taxes. What is your risk tolerance? That's really what it comes down to. Everybody knows the difference between right and wrong. You know, do you walk into a grocery store and steal candy from the cashiers? No, you don't. Then why would you be evading taxes and not helping participate in the community that was being developed by everybody else helping the government pay for it? Why would you not be part of that? So that really becomes a personal issue. Now, are they able to catch those people that do that in Bitcoin? Absolutely. There's several people sitting in jail around the world, different countries, different reasons, that were transferring lots of money, laundering money in Bitcoin, and it just took one Fed doing it to one person, or, you know, in that situation, they will set a trap for you. They absolutely buy and sell Bitcoins. The governments do. And it's usually, you know, it's just like prostitution. That's not legal anywhere, but everybody still does it. But people go to jail all the time for doing it. Now, am I saying everybody should be a prostitute? Clearly not. But my point is, it comes down to your personal decision whether or not you want to participate in the tax system and pay for the goods and services, or, you know, the things around you that you support in your community, or not. It's easier to get away with it in Bitcoin because, again, there isn't a government that has jurisdiction over the whole world. So it is a lot easier in that situation. But I personally, anytime I turn my Bitcoins into a product that I purchase, like a computer, or I send it over to my BitPay card and I turn it into fiat so I can actually go to the grocery store and buy groceries, I claim that as income on my taxes because people paid me in Bitcoin. So anytime I go into the fiat, in and out of the fiat system, if I buy Bitcoins, that's a cost of doing business. If I sell Bitcoins, that's an income of doing business. And somewhere in the middle is the margin. And that's what you owe taxes on.
Yeah, and it's up to you, obviously, to declare those taxes. Otherwise, you may not get caught now, but you may get caught in 5 or 6 years' time. And they backdate anyway.
Absolutely. Now, a big misnomer that I want to clear up also, people think that Bitcoin is anonymous. You know what the truth of the matter is? If I have your address that I sent Bitcoins to, I could probably figure out with the people that I know and the blockchain and things how to get to your front door, where that happened. Literally. It's not as invisible and anonymous as people think it is. It's actually one of the more superior tools for governments to seek those who have it. You can actually...
Is that Bitcoin only, or what about FuelCoin and other altcoins?
All cryptocurrencies that have the blockchain. Now, there are some like the NAV coin, which is one I really kind of like. What they do is when you send a transaction, it puts it into a big pool, mixes it up, and sends it out to hundreds of different people that are unrelated. That's the only time it's truly what we call anonymous. Those are anonymous features. In cryptocurrency, there are Bitcoin cyclers that anonymize your Bitcoins. But, you know, it really comes down to this. I personally don't care if they ever do seek the things that I'm purchasing because, you know what, I'm not afraid to tell the government I bought a gallon of milk today with Bitcoin. I'm not hiding anything. So, you know, it really comes down to your personal discretion. What is your risk tolerance? Are you honest or are you not? If you're not honest, well, guess what? This is a pretty good tool for you to hide yourself. But if you are honest, it's also a good tool to make money and report it and pay your fair share.
And the other thing is, I may be wrong here, but I do this with property. But when my property value increased into the millions going back 10 years ago, you don't actually pay tax until you sell the property, okay? You keep the property forever and ever. You can keep remortgaging the property and taking the money out free of tax. But when you physically sell the property, that's when you have to pay your what you call your capital gain tax. So it's the same with Bitcoin. If you put, say, make a nice figure of $100,000. If you bought $100,000 of Bitcoin today, and then it goes up to $1 million, the value of it goes up to $1 million. Although you're a millionaire in Bitcoin, you don't pay, unless you actually sold those Bitcoins for $1 million, you won't pay the tax until you sold them, will you?
Well, that describes my situation exactly. My holdings are very, very significant, and it started from virtually nothing. And that's why anytime I transfer my Bitcoins over to a Visa debit card where I can use it for fiat money, or if I need to sell any, I count that as my income. Just as if you had sold that house, you should pay your fair share on the capital gains that you made. That's exactly what I do, but as long as it's in Bitcoin, I haven't recognized any gain. So I only take out of Bitcoin what I personally need to survive. with regards to groceries and gas and, you know, my rent and things like that. I turn that into fiat dollars, American dollars, and I pay my bills with it. And then I take those American dollars, and let's just pretend it's $2,500 a month, which is pretty close to accurate because I'm a very inexpensive person. I claim in my income that I made $2,500 from this alternate source, even though I have many zeros in this source.
Yeah.
I don't want to disclose exactly how much.
In the UK, you're allowed so much tax allowance spending anyway. I think it's like £12,500 a year you're allowed to earn without paying tax anyway. So you could just sell that in Bitcoin tax free.
And that's exactly why some exchanges don't ask for your know your customer stuff, because until you reach a specific monthly or daily or weekly limit, they don't care what you do because you're well under whatever the regulated government's stipulations are for that amount of money. And so like Coinbase, it's apparently, I think, $2,000 a month. If you keep it under $2,000 a month, if you don't want your limits raised, well, you're clearly under what the government says you can do without reporting it. Just like a teenager going to work at McDonald's. This kid who's making, you know, $2,000, something like that a year, $1,800 to $2,000 a year, he doesn't have to file taxes on that. He's clearly underneath the exemption.
Right, okay. So back to what we said earlier, there's no advantage of being a centralized cryptocurrency then? There's no advantage of that?
Well, I'll go back to the advantages and I will talk about the disadvantages. All right. The advantages are that unless there is focused, managed development with the core coders and developers, the coin will fork and die. If you don't keep your car running, change the oil, change the tires, etc., it will die on you. The coders have to keep up on the cryptocurrency that's out every day, every week. There's new updates that need to happen. So if you don't have that, then your coin's probably going to die. Now, how's anybody going to know about your coin? Well, how do you get the word out if there's no marketing? That is one of the most important centralized activities that any coin needs to do. Bitcoin's massive failure, the reason why it's not as popular as it is today a number of years ago, is because there was no centralized marketing center for it. In fact, I'm surprised there's not a Super Bowl Sunday advertisement for Bitcoin, but guess what? There isn't a centralized anybody or anything prepared to pay the money to do that. That's where centralization is very, very nice. When you have the coders taken care of, when you have your marketing taken care of, and the word's getting out, your coin's probably going to do better than others that don't have any marketing. So that's the pro side. Now the con side is there are so many people who've been involved in different, I'm going to say the word scams, and they see this as a method to make a quick buck. And as I mentioned before, most multi-level marketing operations are less interested in the life and survival and value of their coin than they are for the sign up. The reason is if they stop getting their sign-ups, I talked about this earlier, how do you pay commissions on a product that has no margin? If I am selling dollar bills, $1 US dollar bills, how am I ever going to sell one for $1.10 when anybody can get it for $1? There's no margin to be made. So how do they handle that? They take a good majority of the money that comes in from the new signups to pay the old people who came in before. And just like these large multi-level marketing operations like OneCoin, which is now starting to die, as soon as the signups slow down, everything crumbles.
Right.
So that's a negative, in my opinion. Now, do they have a great coin? Do they have a great product? Do they have great marketing? The answer is probably yes to all of them. But if their focus is signups, then they're having to take the money away from where it belongs, which is on the value of the cryptocurrency itself, to pay the commissions. Yeah.
And obviously the cryptocurrency has to be on a real blockchain, on a real exchange as well, which a lot of them haven't got, have they? A lot of them haven't got that.
Correct. And now there's some that are actually creating their own internal exchanges. And that's why KYC is important, because if they have their own internal exchange, then they're accepting fiat dollars for their product. The government's going to want to know who's sending the money in. It eliminates the whole this is my huge bell and whistle that everybody should buy for is because I have KYC. That's ridiculous. You have KYC because you don't want to go to jail. Everybody who operates between crypto and fiat, Bittrex, Polynex, BTCE, Bitstamp, Kraken, all of those exchanges have KYC. And it's because they don't want to go to jail.
Right. Well, you keep mentioning that word. I think you mentioned it a few times. Securities. That's all to do with the SEC, isn't it? What's all that about? Explain that. The securities.
Well, now here's another massive problem, and this was a question asked back in the 1800s at the invention of the first printing press, where companies were literally saying, "I have a farm, and I'm going to issue 10,000 shares for my farm," and people all buy it because they believe in the farm. Well, all of a sudden, this guy's crooked or runs out of money and decides to print another 10,000 shares. That's the reason why we have a Security and Exchange Commission pretty much in every country to regulate against that type of theft, that type of fraud. Any company that is issuing a cryptocurrency as part of their company runs the serious risk of violating the Security and Exchange Commission's acts and are issuing unregulated securities. And again, these laws are since the 1800s. They're pretty well established and pretty well defined. And some of these organizations are literally dancing on the edge with the devil. So
you mentioned OneCoin, and so if this, from a security point of view, how long, if these companies are not doing something right, how are they still going then? How long do they keep on going for? Why aren't they being shut down by the SEC? All these.
Well, the biggest problem goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier just now, is that they are worldwide, and there is no specifically one government that regulates the whole world. They don't have jurisdiction. Now, you typically see in Germany and in the United States, the multi-level marketing businesses that are starting to dance on those laws will first not operate in the United States and Germany at the same time, pretty much the same time. Those are the two triggers. If they can't or do not want to operate in those two countries, well, guess what, guys? It's probably a scam.
Right, okay. Right, okay, let's leave it at that then. I'm going to keep it short. We've gone over. And but yeah, we leave it at that. And this has been recorded, so we can use this. I can pass this on to my team, and that's the good news. So that's it, Gary. Really, thanks for that. And that's all we wanted to cover tonight was the KYC, and all the security side of things and the decentralizing side of things as well, and the centralizing. So that's great. We've covered everything now. So that's great, Gary. I'll leave you go. I know you got lots on, and I'll give you a ring tomorrow night to sort out a few things what we talked about earlier with regards to my desktop. And I'll catch you with tomorrow, Gary, okay?
Sounds wonderful, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me rant and rave again. Appreciate your time. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Cheers, Bye.